All right, and welcome back to That's Some Cheese, part of the Vendetta Sports Podcast Network. Today is Monday, November 9th, and we have special guest Jackson Law from the VU series, Vendetta University, NFL 2K5, Toast Time, Backyard Football. What else we got? Tanndemonium Podcast. Did I miss anything else?
Yeah. Besides some new stuff coming out, no. That's a long list. It just keeps getting longer, man.
It keeps getting longer, but we have a pretty good show for you guys today. And I want to start off things because I've kind of made this podcast into a company update. I hope that the people in our site watch this shit because most of the time I include stuff with what's going on in the site. And this is a careful thread job that I have to do here because I don't like talking shit to people behind their back, but I also feel like I have to say something. So it's kind of hard to juggle where to go with it. But I'll say this. We've suffered a departure. And one of the biggest things that I don't like, or biggest pet peeves, I fucking hate liars and I fucking hate people who are inauthentic. Even Alex, you know, there have been times where he's like, well, why don't you tell people? I forget what the conversation was. He's like, why don't you tell the group this? It's like, just don't roll that way. I'm not a liar. I like people who are authentic. So what we're going to do to celebrate his departure is we're going to do a car salesman segment here, Jackson, because historically we get hyped about these NBA draft prospects and we go a little crazy and we can talk ourselves into people. But most of the time, they just turn into Bruno Caboclos. Or most of the time, they're just Mark.
That hits home, man.
And most of the time, they're just Anthony Bennett's or Nerlens Noel. And most of the time, you end up with somebody who's worthless, and then you don't even end up resigning them on their second contract. So I'm going to talk about the top 5 players taken on our mock draft, and I don't like any of them. I wouldn't touch any of them. So I want you to convince me why I should draft them. And I'll say, you've convinced me or you haven't convinced me. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. First player, LaMelo Ball. Go ahead.
LaMelo Ball. All right. So NBA, there is a larger emphasis on guard play, especially the bigger the guard, the better. So that way they can guard multiple positions, especially because how shrunken the players are starting to become. They're starting to play more small ball. Sometimes guards may be playing other positions. So LaMelo, he's big. He can shoot the three. He can pass. He's a big name talent, so maybe he can, get some juice into your franchise. Looks like it's going to be the Timberwolves. I keep seeing back and forth on everything, but I think probably the Timberwolves will end up pulling up on him. He's definitely better than his brother. I'll give him that much. Already coming in to the league, he played fairly well in New Zealand. And he's like I said, 3-point shooting, emphasis on 3-point shooting, great playmaker, driving to the basket. Obviously, like everyone, not perfect, does have some flaws when it comes to finishing. A little bit on that defensive side, but if you are in the need for a market, a big marquee name that's going to put butts in the seat and is going to give you probably in his rookie season close to 20 points a game, maybe more, depending on where he's at, LaMelo Ball's your guy.
There are a couple things you did brought up, and I didn't realize. He's 6'7".
Yeah,
that's a big plus. Here's the problem.
He's Magic Johnson. I mean, already, like, come on, what more do you want?
I'm still out, but it was a good effort. But here's the thing. Okay. Let's say he's 10% better than Lonzo Ball. I'm still out. Lonzo Ball's not worth the second pick. And a slightly better version than Lonzo Ball still not worth the second pick. And the biggest concern I've had is that he just doesn't look like he's got the eye of the tiger. When I pick somebody at the top of the draft, I want to know that they're like Jimmy Butler deep down inside. They have that winning mentality. I don't see that from that guy. I see a guy who lacks interest on the defensive end of the floor. I see a guy who takes bad shots and tries to play hero ball and he makes flashy passes to make himself look good, not to be unselfish. So if I'm getting a better version than Lonzo Ball, and that's who I have to commit a max contract to later because in 4 years, that's what I have to do to keep him. No, thank you.
All fair points. I can't. All fair points there.
Okay.
I mean, personally, like this draft is tough. Like this is probably the hardest draft. I don't envy being in any GM spot unless you're, further back in the lottery. So maybe outside of the top 10 or anywhere else, because there's not a whole lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of pressure on the top 5 teams to get that guy, and there's not really that guy in this draft.
But isn't this the problem? The Sacramento Kings have sucked forever. And the reason why they have sucked forever is because they take a top guy and then they're not quite a max player, but then you feel like you can't let him go for nothing. And then you give up 30% of your cap and you can't sign anybody. The perfect example is going to be Marvin Bagley. His contract runs out. He's played well enough, but he's the second overall pick and you took him ahead of Luka Doncic and you can't really let him walk out the door for nothing. What are you going to have to pay that guy?
More than what he's worth.
$20 million a year?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, $20 million to keep him around.
This is why the Sacramento Kings suck forever.
Yeah, well, they're just a terribly run franchise, and sometimes you can't help that. Sucks to be a Kings fan.
There's another example. Phoenix Suns. You take DeAndre Ayton, number 1 overall. He's played well enough to where he's not a bust. How much are you going to have to give that guy?
Right now on the roster, he's like, I guess you could say the second best. Yeah. So he would probably be mid to high 20s,
which is insane. You can't win like that. You can't win like
that. Especially for a big in a league that is wanting like stretch bigs, not just traditional bigs.
That's why the same team stuck forever. You're stuck with that guy. It's a curse to pick someone like this high. You have to get this right. And if you pick someone, they have to be a superstar. They just can't be, well, he can play.
Not everyone can be Philadelphia and just kind of luck into it after like 4 years of being awful.
Next guy.
And picking awful. Next guy.
James Wiseman.
James Wiseman. Man, that's gonna be a tough sell. That's gonna be a tough sell, especially just after the conversation we had about Ayton. Listen, speaking of stretch bigs, he needs a little work on it, but the potential is there. Big, strong, athletic, is going to run both ends of the court. At 7'1", there's hardly a guy that's as big and as strong and as athletic as he is. Defensive machine, amazing in the pick and roll. I know we don't have too much film on him because he got slid a couple of stacks while he was at Memphis, and then the NCAA found out, and because the NCAA is selfish and they're eventually probably going to start losing players more so to overseas, but also now that the NBA has opened up the G League for kids coming out of high school, for them to start developing through the G League and then get with a team that way. But can't go wrong with this pick. Again, big, strong, athletic, quick. He's got the tools to become an outside shooter, is already a beast down low and in the paint. Teams that just need a young presence down in the paint can take him, and they'll know that it's going to be taken care of.
Can he be Chris Bosh?
You see, that's tough because part of the segment is me trying to sell you, but then there's like my actual opinion I have.
That was your sell job. I want the actual opinion now.
Opinion, maybe like a poor man's Chris Bosh. But at the same time, I hate it because I really don't. I'm not like super high on many of these top picks. But I mean, the fact that he is 7'1" and he is athletic, and there's the possibility that if he works on it, maybe in 3 years he starts hitting 3-pointers consistently, which will be about the end of his contract. So that could determine how much he gets paid. But if it looks like how it's going to go down, where he's going to go to a place like Golden State, there's going to be no pressure on him. And it's also going to kind of suck for him because there may not be that much development for him at a place like Golden State because they don't need him to do anything. You've got a 2-time MVP in Steph Curry. You've got one of the best 3-point shooters in Klay Thompson, and you have Draymond Green. That's still a defensive presence and a leader on that team. And you have Andrew Wiggins, question mark. there's going to be no pressure. Even with Andrew Wiggins out there on the court, he's still going to be the fifth guy. Or when bench players start coming in, a bunch of no-name dudes that no one's heard of because they don't have any money, so they have to go down to the G League to bring players. He's still a guy that I think has value, but you also have to be careful if you're Golden State. If I'm Golden State, I try to get out of it because same conversation that we just had, eventually his contract's going to run up and the league is moving in the opposite direction of what his position is. And there's still question marks around if he's going to continue to build on his three-point shot and become what is essentially the modern big man, someone that can play in the post, but can also hit from outside.
I think you kind of summed up why I've been convinced to it's a semi-buy. I'll semi-buy it. If I can't move down, I'm absolutely stuck. There's nothing I can do. No offers are coming in. This is the spot I'm in. I'm Golden State. I can talk myself into short term. This is the only guy at number 2 that can slide into our starting lineup right now. I don't think you can say that about anybody else.
No. And he'll do anything that pretty much like what a big man would do that they would pick up in free agency. It's just run the floor and get 10, 12 rebounds a game.
I'll semi-buy it, but still prefer to trade down. Okay, how about this one?
Same.
Anthony Edwards.
Oh, I got my work cut out for me on this one. And Anthony Edwards.
This is not a good start, Jackson.
I may just have to take the L on this one, man.
Oh.
All right. It's just all right. Listen. I'll give you some positives, and then I'll give you my personal take on him. He's really strong and uber athletic. That stuff is really nice. As weird as it is to say, he's got the NBA body. When you look at him coming out of college, he's already strong, plays physical, plays mean. That's something that you want. But looking at the top teams, regardless of who it is, if it's the top 3, even the top 4, if you include the Bulls, everyone's biggest weakness outside of Golden State is 3-point shooting, and that's not there with him. And you have I saw a report today where a lot of scouts, they watched his televised pro day and they were not impressed. The word that they used was disappointed. This is something that you've had time to prepare for, and especially with the whole pandemic going on, you've just got your guys there. It's guys that you've been working with. There's no real scouts there. There shouldn't be any pressure, even though you know that it's televised. It shouldn't feel anything different than just from a normal workout. And if that's the case, if it is just a normal workout, if you viewed it as a normal workout, then that's a really bad sign. But if he let it get into his mind that there's scouts watching, this is televised, then what's going to happen when he gets into a real NBA game, when the game is on the line and the ball's in his hands and it's down, there's not even a shot clock anymore. There's less than 24 seconds on the clock and the ball's in his hands and he's got to make a play, and we're going to start having fans in the stands. What's going to happen when it starts getting really loud and there's all these other distractions and there's people calling him all types of different names? I am not confident. And the more that I look into him and the more that I read about Anthony Edwards, because of his hype and because of where he's going to get picked at, I don't know if he's going to be a success in the NBA. I think because in our draft, I picked him at number 3 because I couldn't move down. And I'm afraid he's just going to turn into basically what they've picked all along. The Bridges, what's his name? Is it Bridges? Miles Bridges?
Miles Bridges. Yeah.
Yeah, Miles Bridges, Malik Monk. He's going to turn into the next newest version of those guys. But at least they also can shoot a 3. He has one of the lousiest 3-point shooting of basically the top 3 that's taken, and one of them is a 7-1 center. So
1 to 10, what's the chance he can turn into Oladipo? Because he kind of looks like him. If you're just like, okay, this is what his body looks like, let's compare it to an NBA guy. It kind of looks like that. Agree or disagree? What's the chance he can turn into that?
like on a scale of 1 to 10, just to make it a bit easier, if he can add a 3-point shot to his game, then it's like a 7 or an 8. But if he doesn't add a 3-point shot, it's like a 2. Because the mid-range game, as much as I am a fan of the mid-range game, it's just not there that much anymore. No one's looking for it. Even with the floor spaced open as it is, and it's easier to get to the paint, that could be an advantage for him because he's a great finisher. But you cannot survive in the NBA, and you can't make it to the next level as a player if you can't hit a 3.
I'm out, but I could see how you could talk yourself into it.
I mean, at that spot, maybe he's definitely one of those that I would say has the biggest boom or bust potential. Someone that if he hits, it's going to be great, but if not, then it's going to be a really bad fall.
I think some of the concerning part too was I was doing my homework on this, and every time he was off the floor, Georgia's defensive numbers were actually better, like significantly. That shouldn't happen. Like at the University of Georgia, where they have nobody, how are your defensive numbers better when your best player is not on the, like, this is a guy that should impact things at Georgia because they have nobody. So that one is really concerning.
And his stat line against some of the better competition that they played, he just didn't show up some of those games. They packed the paint and he couldn't do anything.
All right, 2 more here. Denny Avdia.
All right, this guy is pretty much has the potential to be Luka Doncic light. Saying that because he's got great handles for being a forward. He can finish at the rim. 3-point shooting was a question, but ever since Israel started to resume its season, he has just been lighting it up there. If anything, I think he would be a waste at this, but you could definitely just kind of put him in a corner, and he could kind of turn into like a hybrid Luka Doncic and Kukoc for the Bulls back in the day. Somebody that is just an assassin, can hit the dagger, and is a really good building block for a team that maybe is still a couple years away. Give him some time to develop. I think he's going to be one of the better 3-point shooters in the league. And like I said, he's already got great playmaking skills and great finishing at the rim. So he's really fluid. You can run a lot of different lineups with him depending on the players that you have and the style of the team that runs. Yeah.
I know nothing about him. I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were.
I think he's good.
Okay. Goran Dragic,
I think
is that too much, too little?
I think it's too much like on the guard side. And he's also, I think he's a better 3-point shooter than what Dragic would be. So they're kind of, he's less and more on the Dragic scale.
All right, last one. Onyeka Okongwu.
Yeah, just another big man, kind of like kind of reminds you. He kind of reminds you of like a better version of Tristan Thompson.
Oh,
I know that sounds bad. Like I said, I know that sounds bad, but maybe more like a hybrid, more like Tristan Thompson, Bam Adebayo. It's just gonna take time to see what he turns into. But he's a fairly good ball handler for a big man, which is odd to see. But that's something that like Bam has in his lineup, his arsenal that he uses from time to time. Can run the pick and pop outside of the paint, mid-range game. So maybe so there is a potential there to extend that more and beyond the arc, maybe kind of in the corner and wing areas, bit closer, but still a good shot. Really cool name that I just can't pronounce. So
I think
that's
I did
cool.
okay job there.
Yeah, I think you did too. That's a lot better than what I would have done. But yeah, if like he goes in where our draft where he's with the Cavs, I think he fits alongside. I would think they would have to get rid of Drummond because I think he's going to be more paint centric to start out his career. But there's a lot of big men in this draft where there's potential there to extend out. It's just all going to depend on him getting good coaching and him really working on it. But strong, physical, lots of energy, things that you want from a young player coming into the league. It's going to draw a lot of fouls down low, so he's got to stay on top of his free throw shooting. And also the Cavaliers, they need to take a big, probably a wing. I would probably opt for a wing in this draft because there's a lot of wings, so you honestly can't go wrong. You can't reach too much on a couple of them. One in particular that I really like, and Isaac Okoro. But a solid player that I think could have an impact immediately and in the future.
This is the problem I've had with talking about this guy. There's a rumor the Celtics are trying to, package all 3 of their first round picks to move up for this guy. He better fucking be Bam Adebayo if you're trading 3 first round picks for him. Poor man's Tristan Thompson. What are we doing here?
He's like he's a better version of Tristan Thompson.
I still don't like what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, I know that, but to be fair, Tristan Thompson was a starter on an NBA championship winning roster, even though that roster also had LeBron James and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But still. But like he could do that same thing like Tristan Thompson did if he goes to Boston. He's not going to need to handle the scoring. Like if Boston somehow trades up, let's say he falls out of the top 5 and he gets to a point where it's a team that's like, we're not comfortable here, but maybe if we trade back to 14, where the Celtics pick is at, then maybe we can get a guy that we would prefer, and then that's when Boston's like, we'll give you that 14th pick, and then we'll give you these 2 other picks that we really can't use because our roster is literally full. Yeah. We've got 20 guys that are signed for next year, and the roster size is 14 with 2 guys resting, and the rest of them going to have to go to the G League or get cut.
Let's go to the mock draft, and what we did here is analysts from the site, they were assigned teams. They made their picks like the GM would. So I will link this article in below. The people who are watching this, I want to hear from you. Who do you think had the best draft? Who do you think had the worst draft? So let me ask you this, Jackson. You review all the teams, view all the picks. Who did the best here and who did the worst here?
Let's see. The best one, I'm kind of looking like it's hard to say because it's like someone like me personally is like I got Okoro at 6 for the Hawks, so that was great. But then I also took Edwards at 3, so I wasn't when I really wanted to move back, so that was kind of a failure on me. There was one in particular. I'm trying to find it. Someone took a guard fairly early that I was really surprised with. I'm trying to think of who it was. I can't find it now. Damn it. I did like. I would probably say, just from the fact that they got a guy that they wanted and were able to trade back to get them. I would say Alex did a really good job with the Spurs.
Absolutely.
I think he
and getting rid of DeRozan.
Yeah, he got rid of DeRozan and he got Karis LeVert
big time.
And like you, I know he said he wanted Jared Allen, but taking Jordan isn't terrible. He could just come off your bench. It's whatever. If you want to do that. And he traded back and like he's taking a chance on a guy like, and I'm gonna try to pronounce this as best I can, Alexej Pokusevsky,
I think.
Maybe. Pokusevsky, whatever. Yeah. I don't, dude. These Eastern European players are nuts.
I'm with
these
you.
names, but the upside is really there. And then if you can get rid of Aldridge, I don't think you could get a I don't know if you could get a first round pick out of him here, but maybe if you could just get like some young assets, maybe if you could get like a late first round pick in next year's draft, because next year's draft is going to be another one of those that are pretty deep. So I would honestly say that for the Spurs, Alex did the best job just from the trade and trading back. And he's embracing the, in his mind as the GM, he's embracing the rebuild, not necessarily the tank, but the rebuild. And he's taking a guy that could, turn into the next Porzingis if he puts some muscle on.
Yeah, and again, for those who are watching this, I'll link this in the article. Each NBA team was assigned to a blogger, so they made the picks. Excuse me. So I want to talk about Jared's pick, the Mavericks. And he's someone I really want with the Celtics, Precious Achiuwa. But that Mavericks pick is interesting to me. If you can put someone like that, who I guess he profiles as a Montrezl Harrell type, someone 6'9", a little nasty inside, I think that's kind of what Porzingis needs next to him. And Porzingis has gotten a little tougher as the years have gone along, but you can plug that guy next to Porzingis. Doncic gets better. I don't think Hardaway's a scrub. We're talking about a real team all of a sudden here. And they're going to have a max spot the following year.
Yeah. I like you said, Porzingis has gotten stronger. He has gotten tougher. Still a little injury prone. Seeing what happened, at the end of their playoff run. But his place still kind of belongs kind of on the perimeter. That's what he got into the league for, and that's what he's worked on, and that's one of the things he's better at. Not saying that he can't play in the post by any means, but if he's that, kind of fragile and he's got that reputation, better to play on the safe side and just go get a dog and Precious. Let that dude be in the trenches and fight for the boards and kind of be the Dennis Rodman role of
I love that
group,
fit. That pick that Jared made.
That is a great pick, yeah.
Who do you think did the worst? What's the worst pick here?
The worst pick. Kind of tempted to say myself at 3.
No, we already talked about Edwards. Bring some.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking. Cause I don't know. It's like a lot of guys are picked in their right spot.
Talk to me about this. I haven't really talked about this guy. Tyrese Halliburton. Doesn't seem very athletic. Just seems like a combo guard that really doesn't have a defined role, that I don't know if he'll ever score or be an 18-point per game scorer, but he's in the top 10. Tell me how this guy is really good, because I don't see like this fast twitch, great athlete type of guard who's going to make a huge impact. He seems like a Monty Morris. What's the difference?
I'm going to my I did a piece on him and I'm trying to okay, 1 second. You caught me off guard with this question and I'm trying to.
Is he better or worse than Monty Morris?
Monty Morris?
Oh boy.
The same.
Oh boy. I need something better than that if I'm taking him top 10.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, he is small. He's pretty tiny. He's the thing that helps him is that he is a pretty good shooter, a decent playmaker. And, at size 6'5", he's a bit more on the taller side. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that he's the worst pick, but you kind of run out of guards at this point. He's definitely behind. I'll say this. I think he should be behind Cole Anthony. I think Cole Anthony should be the one taken at 8 because that's and then Tyrese back at 14. If you were to switch those two around, and the logic for the Celtics, which I know it was you, but the logic for the Celtics, can't trade up, we need a guard, then he may be the next best available, or maybe go with a guy like Kira Lewis Jr. at that spot out of Alabama. Take a chance on that guy. Uh, that's, but I am higher on Anthony than I am on Halliburton.
Well, let me ask you about Anthony quick then, because he's the guy I took in the mock. And in a draft like this, it just feels like you have to take big swings. There's no point in taking a guy you just think's okay, because there's 1,000 of them in this draft, or at least it seems like that. If I'm going to take somebody, I want to take a big swing. We're talking about a guy who is the MVP of the McDonald's game, the MVP of the Jordan Brand game, all these offseason games where all the best players in the country are playing. He's just winning all these MVP awards. He goes to North Carolina, doesn't have a great year, but correct me if I'm wrong, where are the North Carolina guys on the draft board? I don't see any.
Yeah,
it looks like
right,
a bad
right.
North Carolina team. So what
It was.
happens,
They did not have a great year. This was not a normal year for Carolina.
what happens if this guy was just, wow, I got nothing to work with here. I'm going to have to take bad shots, because sometimes you're in that situation. Sometimes you got to take bad shots because there's nothing around you. I find it hard to believe somebody who's an MVP at all these All-Star games just suddenly sucks.
And it's because their team sucked. But he was the best part of that. And I know sometimes you got to be careful about, drafting or signing guys that performed well on bad teams, because somebody's got to score the points. But college is a different breed, because it's more team oriented. It's more about coaching game plans, and sometimes even teams that aren't that great still play tremendous basketball. And you see some of the top teams in the country, like they'll be #1 seeds that lose like 5 or 6 games a season, and it's not because the pool of players for that season is awful. It's just because that sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's tough. College basketball, next to college football, is like one of the toughest games to play, one of the toughest environments to play in. And I agree with you. If he falls to Boston at 14, that's your point guard of the future. Then I think Danny Ainge just gets another blessing from the Lord, or he made a deal with the devil. I don't know what he's
For
done.
Jeff Green.
It seems, yeah, for freaking Jeff Green. Yeah, God. Oh,
This is how I look at it, though.
that hurts me, because there's so many players in this draft that I would like the Grizzlies to have and would fit perfectly with them, and we don't have our pick.
Jeff Green.
Yeah, freaking Jeff Green, dude.
This is the way
He's
I look
hurt
at
so
it,
many
though.
people.
Let's say, worst case, he turns into Austin Rivers. Best case, I feel like I have my replacement for Kemba Walker. I feel like he can be something similar to that.
He's basically Kemba 2.0. That's what I see him becoming.
What are we doing then? Like, that's a guy I want. That you have to do that at 14. Especially with the ways Kemba Walker's knees have been, because I don't think he was the same guy in that playoff run.
No, he was not. Jeez. I agree with you. The fact that he falls to 14, if that does happen, because I see a lot of mock drafts out there, just because I look around and see what else everyone else is saying, and he's fallen out of the top 10. He's a top 10 player in my book.
The other bad pick, in my opinion, was Dakota. You can't take Vernon Carey at 16.
I was going to say that was going to be my pick.
You can't take Vernon Carey at 16. And I get it. He's he's got some interesting measurables to him. He's the son of a former left tackle, Vernon Carey. But you're going to take a center who's 270 pounds. How many minutes is that guy going to play?
And he's more along the lines of a traditional big. And he's got really
Jahlil Okafor,
no shot,
except worse.
Yeah.
That's what I don't know. I just didn't understand that one. What else did I want to bring up? Give me 2 minutes on Okoro before we move on. Then we'll do NFL stuff.
Okoro, he's the best defender in the draft. Hands down. I talked about it in my little snippet when I gave my reasoning about drafting him. I think his career path is going to match that of Marcus Smart. I think he's Marcus Smart Jr. Already. And you look at Marcus Smart back in college, look at Okoro back in college, pretty much play the same way. They are the hustle guys. They're the dog. They make those diving plays that you toss it back in and it bounces off the defender's foot and it's out of bounds. and it's your ball, it's your team's ball all of a sudden. Crazy athletic, and he has the skill set there to potentially become a scorer. And that's what's happened with Marcus Smart this season. He has exploded as a 3-point shooter. I'm watching all the games in the bubble. I'm watching all those playoff games. I can't tell you how many times I texted you or messaged you in Slack. I'm like, Trey, when the hell did Marcus Smart become this good of a 3-point shooter? Because I didn't get to watch a whole lot of Celtics this season. When did he start doing this? And it's just that he's gotten better. He's done what he's done well, which is play defense. That's what got him that big contract extension. And everyone's like, oh, I don't know, because of the offense was still a question. I think Isaac Okoro follows the exact same career path, and the Hawks need defense if Trae Young and Kevin Huerter are your backcourt.
Yeah, one of the takeaways I've had is you kind of got to learn lessons from teams that win. The Miami Heat surprised everybody this year, but they've built their entire team. They drafted Bam Adebayo because they liked his personality. They draft Tyler Hero because he's all swagged out. They've built Jimmy Butler because he's a dog. Their entire team is built off of guys who are hungry and guys that, have that mental edge up here. So if you can say Okoro, yeah, he plays his ass off on the defensive end, we think he can get better, you can sign my name next to him. I'll take it. I'll take a shot right there.
In a normal, like if you're running a normal 1 through 5, he can guard 1 through 4. And if you're going up against a small ball lineup, he'll guard any position out there.
I like him.
That's the type of guy he is. He's my favorite player in the draft. I'm going to be following him really closely from here on out.
We have Jackson Law here joining That's Some Cheese. You can find him JLaw1995, I believe. That's the Twitter. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got some things in the works. Support the site. Patreon. I'll have to link that in too. But if you guys could donate, that would be much appreciated. What else you got, Jackson? Any updates with the site to announce?
Just some new YouTube series that I'm working on. So just be on the lookout. Subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Yeah, subscribe on YouTube. Of course, visit the site, vendettasportsmedia.com. This doesn't have to do with anything with sports, but I do want to spend like 2-3 minutes on the Tanndemonium podcast and Toast Talk. The show you do with Brian Tan, I look forward to it every single week. I think Brian is starting to really, like, he joined the site. He does his own thing. Within the last episode or two, he's really started to embrace the Vendetta way, calling people out, taking his shots. I think that show has serious potential.
No, but behind the scenes, I'm always encouraging him. I'm like, dude, go for it. The more limits you push, the more Trey likes it. That's good for us. Keep doing it. And then you sent out about how trash anyone. Do whatever. We're not going to stop doing that stuff. He's messaging me, and he's like, because he talked about the Chase Claypool not being in, not even in, his name not even mentioned in one of the names for offensive rookie of the year. Not saying that he should win it, but just that his name wasn't in there. And he goes on this massive tirade on the podcast, and he's like, so can I go on about that? I'm like, dude, rip him, go for it.
Chad.
I'll sit back.
I lost it when he said that. The new show you have with Anthony too, if you haven't seen that, make sure to check that out. Toast Time, you got different toast segments
toast pun themed podcast.
Players or coaches or teams fall into certain categories. So if you haven't seen that show, make sure to check that out too. Jackson is involved with a ton of stuff on the site. I guess we can sort of announce that you're going to do some Assassin's Creed stuff.
Yeah, tonight, as of recording this, it's the night of release, and yeah, I'm gonna be ready for it. Gonna have me some coffee, probably makes me some ramen to eat right before, as I'm waiting for the time to hit. And then just gotta make sure I'm all set up, that I got plenty of space on my computer to record it, because 1 terabyte just doesn't go as far as it used to. But yeah, I'm excited to play it. I like where the series is going. This game is getting some really good reviews. I'll probably do a review on it once I got enough hours into it, once I get a good grip. about everything that it's about and that it's going on. And I'm gonna have it up. It may that stuff may even be up before this podcast is up.
Probably will be. So make sure to check out that series too. All right, NFL stuff here. And first things first, I have to keep it site related, of course. Scott Logish. Now, he's been a little bit too much of a punching bag sometimes, but this one he deserves it. During his show on the fantasy show, Scott had the audacity to not only disagree, but pretty much disagree with me on every single show, and made sure to preface it with, "Sorry, Trey, but I must make the point again because you're not hearing me clearly," or "Sorry, Trey, I know that I'm right about this, even though you're not, Scott." So we must pressure Scott into an apology blog because his take on naming Dalvin Cook a don't eat the cheese running back, which is essentially the same category I put Le'Veon Bell in. These are players you should not draft in fantasy. For Scott to put Dalvin Cook in don't eat the cheese is offensive. It's one thing to be wrong. It's another thing to be dead fucking wrong. So we need to pressure Scott into an apology blog here because not only is Dalvin Cook really, really good, he's the best running back by a mile.
Right now, yeah.
Close. Like he's better than everybody.
Past couple weeks have been absolutely insane.
So we need to pressure Scott into this apology.
Probably, he probably watched the show and he's like, "Damn, that white kid from Canada. I don't like that kid." And just like, I'm gonna go out and just be a beast. And that's what he's been doing ever since he got back.
It's unbelievable. One of my bold predictions on the show was Dalvin Cook would lead the NFL in rushing yards, be the number one scoring running back. And, Scott made a point to just flat out act like I didn't know what I was talking about. So he needs to do that apology blog. If you're watching this,
you need to find the clip and you need to like either put it in here or just like retweet it out and be like, "This is what he said." Do a post on it. Find those clips.
That post needs to be done because that's bad. I mean, Scott, here's the craziest part. It's one thing to say Dalvin Cook, shouldn't, maybe he's a little overrated. He's on the don't eat the cheese list, to do not draft list, in a position where, here's the craziest part. And I look at this every single week. I don't do PPR leagues, but I always look at the rankings for after the week. Guess who the number 3 running back was in ESPN fantasy leagues this week? Number 3.
Number 3?
Third highest scoring running back this week. Who was it?
I have no idea.
J.D. McKissick. Number 4 scoring running back this week. Kalen Ballage. It's been a bad year for running backs. Running backs.
With Chubb and McCaffrey out for most of the year.
And Saquon Barkley.
And Barkley, yeah.
So it's not like you just missed on Dalvin Cook. If you missed on Dalvin Cook, the guy you probably pick sucks right now. So,
or is injured, like he was with me.
So, Scott, own it. Put your hand in the air, say you fucked up, and apologize before I have to, make it a little bit more pressure on you.
That's the man thing to do. We all got to do it sometimes. Some more than others.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Steelers here because your co-host, he loves the Steelers. He would turn the whole show into the Pittsburgh Steelers sports show.
Oh, he's like with it's almost like on the lead word where it's like you're almost guaranteed to talk about the Eagles every week. Which at least he's not, he's not in like a pit of depression like Chad is.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty happy with his team and his team's doing well. So
undefeated. You listen to Brian every single week. Are they frauds, not frauds, Super Bowl contenders, pretenders? What do you think?
They're not frauds. They've got some good wins. The most impressive win, obviously, is against the Ravens. That's like a no-brainer. I know how you feel about the Ravens, but it's still an impressive win. It's a division opponent, a rival that they've struggled with in recent years, mostly because Big Ben being down. But they've got a good combination of everything that leads me to believe that they could get to the Super Bowl, that they could pull an upset, because I still think that the Chiefs are the favorites and should rightfully be the favorites, even though they're not undefeated. I still think they are the better team, even though they've had a couple bad weeks this season, which that happens to everybody. So it's no big deal. It's just what happens when they play better competition. So we'll see in a few weeks when they play the Buccaneers. But they have a great defense. Mika Fitzpatrick is going to be, if you've ever had a relationship where you thought you clicked and it's like, man, this girl is the one, but then she like goes away and leaves, like, it's a mutually, both of you decide that it's time to move on and both of you are doing fine, but then you look over there and you're like, I miss her. That's Mika Fitzpatrick with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Because
he was my favorite player in that draft. He was like the one guy I absolutely wanted.
I see him doing amazing things. I loved him from day one. And when I was really upset when we traded him, and he's going on and he's doing great things with this defense. I mean, he seems to be the guy that is getting stops.
He's unbelievable.
He's getting it's insane, the stuff when you watch him play. For some reason, I get a lot of Steelers games on my TV from the locally broadcast station. So I see a lot of Fitzpatrick, and I see him making these game-saving plays, and I'm happy for him because I love him. I just wish it was in a Dolphins uniform. But that defense,
he's the closest thing to the Honey Badger that we have.
He's great. And the defense is also really good. Big Ben not playing as good as he has in the past, but he's playing good enough. And sometimes that's all you need if you've got that good of a defense.
I just talked about this with Chad on the Lead Word because he made this statement about how, Dallas, they should get more credit for keeping that game close. To me, that was a classic Mike Tomlin play to the level of competition game. Mm-hmm. I don't take any grain of salt into that game. Pittsburgh won an ugly game. Who cares?
Yeah, it's just another day in the NFL. They took it lightly, and
it happens.
Even if it's a crappy team, they're still an NFL team, and you're still in Dallas.
Think of the bar we've put on the Cowboys. They had a quarterback that throws it overhand, so we think they look good. The last guy they had, Danucci, couldn't throw it overhand.
But back to just like the original question, asking if they're legit. I think they can be. I think it's going to be them and the Chiefs. I think it's going to make for one hell of an AFC title game. I don't know. Like I would still give the edge to the Chiefs in that game. I just think they have too many weapons. But I would not be surprised to see them make it to the Super Bowl. They've got the makings of like Peyton Manning's last year with the Broncos, aging star, but a great defense that is right now carrying them and is making the plays that you need your defense to make.
The pass rush they have is disgusting. To me, they're one of three teams that can win the Super Bowl in the AFC.
Do you know TJ Watt is rated like an 88, 89 in Madden?
Oh my God.
It's outrageous. The disrespect to that man.
He might be the best pass rusher in football.
Oh, he should definitely be like 98. Maybe join the 99 club. He's that good.
He's better than his brother.
At this point, yes.
I think the Steelers are one of three teams that can win the Super Bowl in the AFC. I think the Chiefs, I think the Steelers, and I think the Bills can win the Super Bowl.
Same, in that order too.
I know you mentioned the Ravens. We didn't have this on our list, but was I going too far? Because Chad seems to think I'm crazy for calling them the Lincoln Riley Oklahoma Sooners. That this is once again, they play the fraud Indianapolis Colts who have Phillip Rivers limping them around. Oh, congrats. You beat 38-year-old Phillip Rivers this week. And how about the Colts? They had 1 yard of offense in the third quarter. Hey, good win, Baltimore. I'm so sick of them. I'm so sick of them. Another game, Lamar Jackson. Their offense is lifeless.
Yeah, and talk about a team that's definitely played down to their competition sometimes. It's and they can't beat good teams. That's what it comes down to. When they come up against real teams, they struggle.
That's because their roster is very, very good. They can win games with their roster, bro. When Lamar Jackson has to outdo a good quarterback with a good roster, he can't do it.
No, and this is something I've kind of noticed from watching the Steelers game and then watching the Miami and Cardinals game, which we'll talk a little bit about later.
I want to talk about that.
I've noticed that Kyler Murray. Okay, well, we'll get to that next then. Kyler Murray and Lamar, they run the same interesting way. This is going to sound like a weird criticism. I don't like how they hold the ball out when they run. And if you have a defense or a defensive game plan that is any type of competence, they're going to take advantage of that. Good teams will. Lamar, 2 fumbles against the Steelers, and Kyler Murray, same thing, turning the ball over too much. I don't know why. It's just like a pet peeve of mine, and it's something that I can easily point to because they're holding it like out here in their palm and then up their forearm instead of up here secured. I don't know why. That may sound stupid to some people, but I feel like that's a fatal flaw. It's a tiny, minute flaw. And if I'm a defender, if I'm coming from his blind side and he's not paying attention, I'm not necessarily going for the tackle. I'm going for the swipe right here on the forearm and the tackle, and that ball's going to pop out. And that's what's happened the past couple weeks.
I think this is a good segue.
Am I stupid to say
that? No. I think it's a good segue, though, because I want to talk about this. We can talk about Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. When I watch those two play, they're not even playing the same sport. And what I mean by that is Lamar Jackson is an athlete playing quarterback. Kyler Murray is almost like a shortstop playing quarterback. Kyler Murray is fucking good. That guy blows me away. That's a real quarterback. That's a real quarterback. He's like trying to think of the right player to compare him to. He's like a fast shortstop. The way he slides is awesome. His throws, it's like picking it in the dirt and he throws 70-yard bombs. His arm's way better than Lamar Jackson. The way he runs is better than Lamar Jackson. He's better at everything than Lamar Jackson. They're not even in the same stratosphere. I think Kyler Murray's significantly better than Lamar Jackson.
So would you agree with the statement that Kyler Murray is the second best quarterback under 30 if you were to put Patrick Mahomes at number 1? Or would you put Josh Allen up there?
I
saw this argument on Twitter today.
I still would go Watson too.
Watson, yeah, forgot about Watson.
But after that, I don't hate the Murray 3. I think Murray's fucking good. I think, and I said this with Chad, I am now ready to say you can win a Super Bowl with Kyler Murray. You cannot win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. Never.
No, and I think I've been on so many podcasts, it's hard to keep track where I said this at. I was talking to someone, it may have been on the Tanndemonium, but Lamar gets in his head way too much.
He's not good. That's why.
Well, yeah, but I compared him to Cam Newton as someone that is freakishly athletic, and when it's early on, game's tied, or when they're in the lead, they're doing great. But then one bad thing happens, he gets down on himself. Other team takes the lead and they can't get it back.
I even think Cam's more accurate than Lamar, but I mean,
I'm just comparing.
It's not a bad comparison. I just think this Lamar Jackson thing, and I've been saying this for how long? You can tell me if you disagree. The more we see him, the worse he looks. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. Kyler Murray, you're a big Dolphins fan. I'm sure you watched a majority of the game. Even in a loss, he blows me away.
He looked amazing. I was not expecting Miami to win that game at all. I would have been fine with that.
I don't care if he won or lost. He blows me away.
And it's rare to see that. And it just goes to show you how young that Cardinals team is and how much further they got to go.
Oh,
I think
they're going to be really good.
I think 2 years they're Super Bowl contenders. That's their timeline in my mind.
Speaking of the team that just played, Miami Dolphins, first we have to say fuck you, Colin Cowherd. Needs to be said. This guy, like, I'm convinced he's not doing it on purpose.
Dude.
I'm convinced there's something mentally wrong with him. I don't understand how this guy for 2 years said, this is the best quarterback prospect. This is the best quarterback prospect. You got to take Tua. Before he starts a game, says the guy stinks, isn't going to make it. How do you do that? Yeah, how do you do that? And then today he's like, hey, this Tua thing's going to work. There's something wrong with him.
When I first saw a few weeks ago when he was like, the Tua thing's not going to work, I'm like, dude, what the hell, man? What was this 180? And then all of a sudden, like now, yeah, during the game, I'm seeing his tweets and he's saying, man, this is a fun game to watch. And he's like, Kyler Murray and Tua, best quarterback duel I've seen all year. And it's like, you just shat on the guy 2 weeks ago, said that he wasn't going to work.
There's something wrong with him.
Dude, I used to like even respect his football takes, but now it's just like is there something going on in the background that we don't know? Like, is there family issues? Like, I know like his daughter Liv, I think is her name. Like, is he just I don't know. Is she like taking over his spotlight and he's trying to fight for it back because she's got dudes simping for her all over Twitter?
I like that.
Are the ratings bad at Fox Sports? Are they so bad that you've now turned into every other sports show? It's just you. It's not a white dude and a black dude and a woman yelling at each other.
It's him yelling at himself.
Exactly. I want someone to do a video like how someone did with Skip Bayless, where it's like instead of Skip arguing with Skip, it's Colin arguing with Colin.
That would be great. How even Drew Lock? He's like, I'm out on Drew Lock. You guys should have listened to me about Drew Lock. And then in the offseason,
5 for 5 on these.
Yeah, in the offseason, he calls him an MVP candidate.
Golly.
What did you think of Tua though this week?
It was a really great game.
I thought he looked awesome.
I knew when it came out that he was going to be the starter against the Rams. I knew he was going to struggle. I didn't think he was going to struggle as bad as he did.
The craziest thing is, I don't think he struggled. I think they got up like 17 and he's like, fuck it. I don't need to pick up first downs. I'm not going to show any of the offense. I'll just hand the ball off and we'll get the win.
Yeah, he on some of the passes, he rushed some of his passes and he missed his receivers a little bit. But that could definitely be not enough reps with the starting receivers and just it not being like like you said, an expanded playbook. And I mean, honestly, it's also first game jitters. And the first play, really one of the early first plays of the game, he gets popped by Aaron Donald and another dude and turns it over. So I just think that I don't want to say the pressure got to him, but it's just that he went up against a really good defensive line, and that offensive line for Miami is not great. It's not a great Miami team. It's just a well-coached team.
Oh, it's very,
and that's why they're doing so good. And it's like when Colin was talking about when he was given like his take about the game. He was saying that the only reason why Tua did good was because it was against a horrible Arizona defense. That's defense bullshit. Isn't horrible. That's not a horrible defense. They're good enough to compete. They're not the best in the league. And then he's like, Kyler Murray went up against an awesome Miami defense. No, the personnel is better in Arizona. It's just Miami's a better coach team.
How many times did Arizona turn over Russell Wilson? And I know the game was high scoring, but they forced a lot of interceptions on Russell Wilson and were able to get a win.
Yeah, and that's against what a lot of people have as like the team coming out of the NFC for the Super Bowl. They're one of their defense is a little iffy, but
I think Arizona is very, very, very good. I think Arizona is arguably the second or third best team in the NFC.
Oh wow! I mean, I get that, but what was the percentage that you gave? I know you gave them a pretty high percentage. Do you think they'll win the division?
Yeah. Before the year started, I said they were definitely making the playoffs. I stamped that, but I said they had a 25% chance to win the division. And Chad thought I was on drugs that day, but I honestly believe that's true. And I still think it's true. I still think they can win the division.
It's possible, especially with how terrible that.
If they beat Seattle again, they have the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
I thought Tua looked awesome though. I think I never want to overreact to, people thought Baker Mayfield belonged in the Hall of Fame 8 starts in. So I don't want to overreact, but the idea that, oh my God, Tua's on the hot seat, or oh my God, he's struggling out there, is ridiculous. This is the best position the Miami Dolphins have ever been in your entire life.
The only other year is when Chad Pennington joined and they made the playoffs.
That doesn't count.
I know it does. He was at the end of his career anyway. I think he got a concussion and he was done the next year.
This is the best position your team has ever been in. Ever.
Yeah, for like the next decade. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just gonna say,
go ahead.
Like you said, love the Tua pick. I loved it when they picked him. And
I think he's special. I think he's a tier above Burrow and Herbert.
Yeah, and just looking at the instinctive plays that he made, there was a time where he rolled into a defender trying to spin away out of the pocket, but as he like the instincts on him to spin back, find his way through, and then run it up downfield. That's something that can't be taught. Like, you can run all the drills that you want. That's just pure instinct and pure athleticism. And that's going to carry him this year. And also, his second touchdown pass was just a beautiful, beautiful throw from especially from a rookie.
He's got such a beautiful release too. Everything comes out fast.
I think he's averaging like what, 2.2, 2.4 seconds until the ball is out.
That I've talked about this so many times in my draft profiles. Mechanically, he will not fail. And the last point on Tua, unless you have other things, but this idea that people were pretending he was not mobile is insane to me. Oh, he gets hurt, therefore he's not mobile. He's a great athlete. He made a lot of guys miss. He was a really good runner in that game, and that's not going to change. I didn't understand the people that thought, oh my God, we should worry about him getting hit or he can't move. It's just totally incorrect.
If that was the case, he wouldn't have gotten up from the Aaron Darnold hit.
He's a really good athlete, though. He made a couple juke moves making guys miss. He's always going to be able to pick up first downs with his legs.
But his durability and his survivability in the NFL is extended because he's more of a traditional quarterback. He's kind of more of what a Josh Allen, I guess you could say. Someone that's got that running ability. Maybe you can run a couple quarterback runs with him close to the end zone and can make plays on his legs. But that's a dude that's got an arm, and the Dolphins are going to take full advantage of it. I think
he's left-handed Russell Wilson. I really do. I think he will be that good. Last thing, and you can tell me if I'm crazy or not, but I know Tampa Bay, they just got their ass beat 38-3. But my biggest takeaway here is I don't think the record's any better or any worse with Jameis Winston. I think they're in the exact same spot they would be right now. They've lost to the Saints twice. They would have lost to the Saints anyway. They beat teams like the Giants. They probably would have beat teams like the Giants with Winston. I think they're in the exact same spot. The Tampa Bay Bucks are better defensively. That's what's carried them to this point, which was always going to be the case. Devin White's another year older, who's a stud. They drafted really well. Antoine Winfield, their corners, Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis are really good. Levante David, Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett. This is a good defense. That's why Tampa Bay has 6 wins. Offensively, Brady has been up and down. Winston has been up and down. That game against Brady has 2 horrible games against New Orleans. I think they got the game against Green Bay. Winston wouldn't have had to show up. They had 2 pick sixes against Aaron Rodgers. That was a game in the bag. I think they're the same team. The same team right now with Winston or Brady.
I think the best opposing argument that someone can give, because I'm more inclined to lean towards your side, is even though Brady did have 3 picks, that's like an average day for what Jameis had. But Jameis also, you got a couple of extra good weapons for Brady. You got the addition of Gronk and Ronald Jones in the backfield, so that helps Brady a lot. And what's his face? The white slot receiver,
Scotty Miller.
That's the next. Scotty Miller, yes, the next Wes Welker. But I tend to agree with you. And the only other argument from the opposite side that I've heard, and I'll say it here, is just that this defense was just as good, maybe a little less maybe not as good as this year, but the constant turnovers from Winston last year, a lot of people are saying, is what caused them to lose a lot of games because he's turning the ball over in short field, and the Buccaneers defense just doesn't have a whole lot of room for error in that instance.
I think there's another counter, though, because let's think about it from a fantasy perspective. You went into this year. If you wanted Mike Evans, you had to take him as like the fourth or fifth receiver off the board. If you wanted Chris Godwin, you had to do the same thing. Right now in fantasy, I don't even think they're top 30 guys right now on the season. Their numbers have plummeted. Chris Godwin, not the same guy. Mike Evans, not the same guy. And I know they're kind of banged up with injuries, but they got hurt last year too. They didn't play all 16 games last year either. Their numbers were off the charts with Winston. This offense
Winston had 5,000 yards last season.
More than that. He led the NFL in passing yards last year. Their offense, from a yardage standpoint, is way down. So maybe he turned the ball over more, but their offense isn't as explosive. So I think they're the same team. I mean, Godwin and Evans aren't even close to what they did a year ago.
Like I said, I'm leaning from those two sides. I'm leaning more towards you in that aspect. And I think I would have liked to have seen at least one more year of Winston in this offensive system, see if he couldn't get some of those turnovers down a little bit and continue to add weapons around him to help him succeed.
I don't buy Tampa as a serious playoff contender. Like, yeah, they'll probably make the playoffs. I don't buy them as a team that, you know, can make a run and get to the Super Bowl or whatever.
Nah, like you said, the Cardinals, Seahawks,
I think
Packers.
Arizona's way better than Tampa.
The big test will be when they go. I said it earlier about the Chiefs, but the big test for Tampa is going to be when they play the Chiefs. What is that, in like 2 or 3 weeks? I think
New Orleans is better. I would, even though
I think New Orleans wins the division. I had New Orleans winning the division to start the year.
Yeah, me too.
And that's who I think. I'm still confident in that pick, especially
in a rematch. I'd take Green Bay too.
Yeah, I've said it before. That was a bad day at the office for Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to do that, but maybe one more time in the regular season.
All right, Jackson. I think that'll do it. Pretty good show here. Do you have anything else? Any other announcements you want to talk about?
None that I can think of. Just stay tuned. Got big things coming, big things planned, big things in the works.
Big things planned. Make sure to follow Jackson, J-Law 1995, myself, Trey Daubert, TREYDAUBERT. Follow the site, vendettasportsmedia.com. Please subscribe. Every subscription helps. We need that 1,000. Help us out. Let us get there. I know Jackson has some things planned. We're working on some stuff business-wise. But other than that, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, we'll see you soon.